You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. LSU did hit the practice field on Thursday morning. It was the first media availability so far of spring. So the first time the media got to go watch about 20 minutes or so of practice, and then Brian Kelly met with reporters after. Full disclosure, I drive my son to carpool in the morning, and so the 7:55 a.m. practice time is not conducive. So I was not there. That's why Cobble will be here, give us a full report of what he saw. Some of the notes that I saw, some of the videos coming out, a few things of note I thought were interesting. Cohen Eccles, the early enrollee, true freshman, was running at second-team center. So we all know DJ Chester slides into that spot where Charles Turner is now off to the NFL. So, you know your first-team offensive line with Campbell, Dellinger on the left side, Miles Frazier, Emory Jones on the right side, and we knew DJ Chester was going to slide in at center. The second-team center having a true freshman in there is interesting, of course, because Marlon Martinez was in that spot, but he now transferred to Mississippi State. So one of the effects that you see there is you've gotten young there and you're too deep at center. We've wondered certainly about the running backs. Josh Williams, Caleb Jackson are your scholarship guys. There's a handful of walk-ons that are going to take a lot of reps this spring as well. I thought it was interesting when you looked at the receiver groups from some of the notes that I saw. I think this note came from Glenn West, if I'm not mistaken. Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson were working with the first group. C.J. Daniels, Kyle Parker, Xavion Thomas with A.J. Swan in the second group. So clearly you're saying, hey, to the transfer, C.J. Daniels, Xavion Thomas, go earn it. You've got Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, all returning players with the first group. So a couple things on the offensive side there. And Brian Kelly, when he met with reporters, was asked about the offensive style, sort of keeping in mind you are stylistically changing, right? I mean, you do not have a quarterback that's going to run for 1,000 yards. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier had one rushing attempt for 1 yard this past year. That's just, it's never going to be it's not a knock. It's just stylistically, it's going to be different. And Brian Kelly was asked about that.
Each year, you're always going to build it around players, not plays. So there's each year is going to have a little bit of a change. This is still going to be, about finding the best playmakers and getting them the ball like it was last year. And, Garrett is a different quarterback than Jaden. So, we'll look to do things that highlight him. So the nuances within the offense, in terms of attacking, pushing the ball down the field, having balance between the run and the pass, that's not going to change. But the players involved, we have to be able to highlight what they're good at and what their strengths are. And that's where you'll see some changes.
The really good news for LSU is you have a ton of playmakers. You have no shortage. And certainly whenever when you get to the fall and you're a little deeper at running back, and then obviously the more you evaluate these wide receivers. I was doing an interview earlier this morning in Birmingham on the Roundtable on Jocks FM, and the guys made the point, Alabama sort of fundamentally changed the past couple of years offensively when they didn't have the elite talent at receiver, and I totally agreed with that. LSU has never had that problem. I mean, we saw LSU very seamlessly transition from the Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall, right into Kayshon Boutte, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and I think we're all expecting that transition this year with Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton and Aaron Anderson. And oh yeah, you brought in Xavion Thomas and C.J. Daniels, and oh yeah, you got a 5-star in Shelton Sampson. I mean, there's no shortage of tall, fast, athletic dudes that can run fast, jump high, and catch the ball. It's just a matter of figuring out the order. Now, the bigger questions this spring clearly are going to be on the defensive side of the ball because, yes, you're replacing the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, but even with the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, you are a 9-3 football team because your defense was arguably the worst in program history. So you got to start figuring out how to fix that. Here was Brian Kelly first on the impressions of the new defensive staff the first couple of days on the field.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the past 6 weeks, being in constant contact with the defensive staff that we've assembled. It's been, for me, very comfortable, great communicators. We're all on the same page relative to what we're teaching and how we want to teach it, evaluations in recruiting. It's been a really smooth transition. I like the way we're coaching, what we're demanding, the attention to, the real details of playing defense, and we're not getting ahead of ourselves in a sense of, understanding the basic tenets of playing really good defense. And you can see that early on. So it's been enjoyable. I think that we're going to see a defense that's going to play with a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. I know that our guys are excited. You can see just by the way they're practicing over the last couple of days.
So 2 days into practice, and you would hope that you'd have a little bit of pride and you'd want to be better than you were a year ago. Of note, Major Burns and Jordan Gilbert ran with the first safeties today, along with Sage Ryan. And during the media availability today, as the notes were, Sage Ryan was working with the safeties. So that kind of answers one question, right? They sold us a year ago on Sage Ryan being a great athlete and the best tackler, which is why they moved him to corner. Really, they didn't have any good corners, as we saw. And so they thought, hey, here's a really good athlete. Let's see if he can cover. And it didn't go great. I firmly believe that Sage Ryan in this defense really fits that sort of star role that they talk about, where you can play in the slot, you can cover a tight end, you're not going to be asked to go man cover on the outside, the other team's best receiver, you're athletic enough to rush the passer, you can play the run and help as well. I think that's a good role for Sage Ryan in this defense. We'll see if that's where he fits. And then we'll see as it develops with cornerbacks as well, who ultimately wins these jobs as they move throughout. The biggest question defensively that we're all asking, and clearly, you got to get more numbers at defensive tackle. We've talked about that ad nauseum. That's not going to fix. You're not going to fix that in the spring. You got to figure out roles in the secondary. But the biggest question that everybody's asking is, why are you moving Harold Perkins back? So Brian Kelly talked about it with Wilson Alexander in that interview a week ago. This is our first chance to hear it from Brian Kelly's own mouth about why they're trying Harold Perkins at inside linebacker again.
The defensive structure is different. I think you start there. You've got a new voice. Blake is coaching the linebacker, so you have a new voice. That's different. That's the second. And then I think collectively, Harold, myself, and Blake felt like, in all instances, this is a place that is going to maximize his potential. And we certainly could keep him out at the star Sam linebacker position, but I think he can impact the defense in so many ways at the will linebacker position.
I'm not Brian Kelly. I'm not Blake Baker. I'm not Harold Perkins. I'm also not an idiot. And it doesn't take too long to figure out how and why decisions like this come about. And Harold is thinking about the next level and being a three-down linebacker and what makes you the most appealing at the next level. Y'all, your eyes didn't deceive you a year ago. My eyes didn't deceive me a year ago. They spent all spring and all fall camp trying to make Harold Perkins an off-ball linebacker. We saw it in one game, and it was a disaster. So much so that after one game, they moved him back. You can go spend a whole nother spring, a whole nother fall camp trying to do this again, but I'm skeptical. I'll say that. And I believe I am right to be skeptical, as are you, if you maintain some skepticism. What magic wand is Blake Baker going to wave that's all of a sudden going to make Harold Perkins a great off-ball linebacker when he's done that one game in his college career? It didn't go well. This is a conversation that's not going to go anywhere. Me pounding my fist on the table and yelling about it ain't going to change it. They're clearly going to try it again. But this is a conversation we are going to continue to have through the spring, through fall camp, and we won't know for sure until they tee it up and kick it off in Las Vegas against USC, and we'll see how it goes. They're committed to it. We'll see if they stay committed to it based on how the season goes along. Spring practice underway out at LSU. Today was day 2, and we'll continue to get you up to date as they move throughout their 15 spring practices and head toward the spring game on April 13th. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.